Hi everyone, NUSensei here. If you are into Eastern archery or Asiatic archery or horse archery, depending on what you call it, whether it's Mongolian, Hunnic, Persian, Turkish, Korean, Chinese, and so on, then it's very likely that you've seen people shoot with the thumb draw. And part of that thumb draw technique and style is the idea of using thumb rings. And today, thumb rings are a ubiquitous part of Asiatic or Eastern archery. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through different kinds of thumb rings in a brief overview, talk about how you might use them, why you use them, or even if you need to use them. Before we continue, it's important to preface this video with the understanding that not every civilization which used a thumb draw used thumb rings, or at least the same kind of thumb rings. You will see cultures such as the Nubians in Africa shoot with very thick thumb rings, very similar to the Manchu thumb rings. But then we have the Korean thumb rings, which are narrower. We have other thumb rings which are made from leather. There are distinctive lack of thumb ring samples from certain civilizations, which would imply that leather thumb rings were more common. So while today we are spoiled for choice and there's definitely a lot of flexibility as to exactly what we want to use, historically they may or may not have used certain thumb rings or even used thumb rings at all. So here I have a very small selection of the different thumb rings you can get today. Each one's slightly different, has a different price point with different materials and so on. I want to point out that basically every thumb draw shooter will have like a dozen of these for different purposes. So this is a pretty mild collection. So first up we have a leather tab. This one I bought from Seoul Archery. It's basically a leather piece which goes over your thumb, so like that. This is preferred by some people for different reasons we'll talk about later. You can buy this commercial or you can make your own. I've seen some people modify a shooting glove to remove the fingertips and just place them on the thumb instead. So that's a thumb tab or a leather thumb ring. Over here we have a Korean style horn thumb ring. This one comes from Freddie Archery. We have a couple of resin ones. These both come from Vermil Archery. We've got a plain Vermil Classic as well as a green Vermil Victory. Both these rings are fantastic. Some thumb rings have a lip just below the thumb, so there is a place for the string to kind of be hooked on, whereas other rings have no lip or a much smoother lip, which means a smoother release. This is a preference thing. Some people would like that contact, others prefer a cleaner surface where they can let the string slide off. And we have metal rings, and these are normally made from brass. This one here is a brass Vermil Classic, so it's the same as this one, but it's made from brass. Main advantage for brass, it's slightly heavier, but more importantly, it's far more durable. This tends to be the go-to option when shooting extremely heavy draw weights. These plastic ones, they're very good for light draw weights, but they can crack if used for heavier draw weights. This last one I have over here is from Alibow. It's a much more decorated ring, so it's got more of that aesthetic, cosmetic appeal. It does have a slightly shallower grip. There is a slight lip here. This one's a bit too large for me, and that's one of the things you'll find with thumb rings, that you must size them. When you're shooting with a leather ring, you can basically just put it on and no problems there. If you're shooting with a ring or you're buying rings, you must size your thumb. That's one of the frustrations with shooting thumb ring, is getting the size right. Not only you have to measure correctly around your thumb, more importantly the knuckle of your thumb, that's the thickest part of your thumb, but the thickness of your thumb will change over time. Depending on, for example, the temperature and season, there is a thing such as winter thumb and summer thumb. It will expand and contract based on temperatures. So for example, this Vermil Classic is my normal size, at least I think it is. It fits perfectly. In winter it slides off, in summer it's too tight. This other one is about half a size larger. It is just right for me right now, but in winter it completely slides off and flies off. So people will find there are lots of sizes. If you buy the wrong size, actually doesn't matter too much. You can pad it out with things like tape, so you can wrap things around it to add more thickness to the ring diameter if you need to. So for example, my Alibow, that's a bit too large. I can always add more padding on the edge for me to have a tighter fit, and you really need a tight fit. Whereas other rings like this horn one, if it's too tight, you can sand it away to have a slightly larger opening. But part of the struggle with thumb rings is simply not having the exact size you need. So we're gonna throw some arrows down range using each thumb ring. I'll do a brief commentary on each kind of thumb ring, just so we get an idea as to what you can expect should you use any of these. Now the first method, I'm going to use no thumb ring. Now before you ask what madness is this is actually not uncommon. Many people shoot without thumb rings. I know in the past I've talked about finger protection, especially when shooting off the fingers like this, and many people don't do so. But thumb ring with the bare thumb, or thumb shooting with the bare thumb rather, is not uncommon. Some teachers will actually require their archers to learn to pull the bow without a thumb ring. Historically, this would have been done by many people, and it allows you to have the most sensitivity. Remember, we're using a style of archery which requires a solid connection between you and the bow, and having protection can dampen that. So when we're loading quickly, you want to use your fingers, and having a bare thumb can be useful. Let's see how it goes and if it hurts as much as we think it might. Oh, it doesn't too bad actually. As fearful as it might seem, it's actually a lot more pleasant than I thought, at least for the first shot. Yeah, that can be nice. Now the main thing with the bare thumb is that it can hurt like hell. I mean, if you do it all day, this will hurt. And people who start out doing this way, even though they might be told to, may struggle just a bit. Oof. Yeah, I'm not really reaching full draw and doing very well. I'm not really used to bare thumb, but a lot of people will shoot bare thumb. Now, a plus side, as we just said, much more sensitivity. If you're doing things like rapid shooting, you can shoot bare thumb. Downside, it stings. You need to really build up your thumb, especially your joint, to shoot bare thumb. This is perhaps maybe a 36 to a 40 pound bow, depending on how far I draw it. People probably wouldn't go much higher than this with bare thumb. I know some people will shoot bare thumb with under 40 pounds, but above that, you probably want some kind of protection. Next we'll go for the leather thumb ring, or the thumb tab. This is one of my personal favorites. It's a nice compromise between having the sensitivity of having the thumb free versus having some kind of protection. Not perfect protection, it is a soft material, so it will put more pressure on the thumb joint, but it provides more than nothing. So let's fling some arrows. Beautiful. Okay, that soft organic feel is really nice. If you want that compromise, you want to feel the string and feel the shot, this definitely works nicely. Very nice. Beautiful, that comes out nicely. Beautiful. So, yep, thumb ring is really good, or the leather thumb ring rather is really good. Like I said, downside would be it's not solid protection, it is a soft feel. So you will still find some joint pain if you're not used to it, especially at higher draw weights. But if you need some protection and you want that feeling with the string, this is a very good compromise, and many shooters go with either bare thumb or with the leather ring. So next up we have the Vermil Classic resin ring. So this is one of the original designs, very affordable. One of my favorite go-to rings because it's light, it's comfy if you size it correctly, and it's pretty much appropriate for most draw styles. So again, we'll chuck a few arrows out. Beautiful. So, very solid contact. Didn't really feel the string come off at all. This can be a bad thing if you need to feel the string, depending on your technique and your focus. But for someone who wants to shoot all day, absolutely solid contact. Again, if you're not used to shooting thumb draw, you will feel some joint pain, but this greatly mitigates a lot of the discomfort which people might begin with. So this is a very solid choice. And we'll go to brass next. So this is a bit more on the hardcore side. Brass is a more dense material, and it really deadens the feeling. So again, we'll fling some arrows and we'll see how we go. And because it's so dense and heavy, you really don't feel anything. You felt that the resin was already a solid contact. This is basically no sensitivity and no pain whatsoever. Again, if you want to have solid contact, you want to feel sensitive to the string, you probably want to shoot without the thumb ring, but this is really pushing the ability to shoot against the string with thumb draw without any discomfort. This one's slightly larger than me, but if I pad it out, this would be absolutely perfect. If you're shooting heavier draw weights, 50 pound plus, up to 100 pound even, not only does this brass make it more comfortable, it's also necessary, just because the resin ones will probably crack under that strain. So that's basically your go-to. And as a little bonus, I'll shoot the Korean horn ring as well. I've shot it a few times, I don't really use it anymore, but we'll switch it to a Korean bow, which I don't shoot either. So again, I don't shoot Korean style, do forgive me, I'm not very good at it. But we'll see how the thumb ring feels. A little loose on my fingers, but it should feel pretty nice. Oh, that feels really good actually. Okay, I haven't learned Korean shooting. I've only seen someone do it like once. I myself don't do it. But that is a very good feeling to have. Oof. Solid, very solid choice. Doesn't feel as heavy as a brass one, but has the same amount of like solid contact. So didn't feel any strain at all. Again, a little loose on my finger here, could pad out just a bit more, but otherwise beautiful thumb ring. Especially if you're shooting Korean style, which I'm not, but if you're doing this sort of thing, it feels really, really good. This may be a silly addition, but I want to remind people that thumb rings are ambidextrous. There are no left-hand and right-hand thumb rings. So, which thumb ring should you use if you're shooting thumb draw? This is going to be the obvious answer. It depends. That's completely your preference. If you're going by a purist approach, then you're likely going to use whatever ring is appropriate to your style. So if you're shooting Manchu archery, you're probably going to use a Manchu thumb ring. If you're shooting, for example, Japanese archery or Kudo, you're probably not going to use a thumb ring. You'll probably be using the glove instead. So there are different rings for different styles, and they're designed for the particular purpose and context. In the modern sense, where you can choose whatever bow you want, whatever ring you want, and draw whatever style you want, you've got a lot more freedom. And in fact, many people today are more inclined to swap over styles and swap over rings. Some people do prefer certain ring designs over others. So even though you might be shooting Turkish thumb draw, you might be using a Korean style ring because of the extra lip or the feel of a smoother ring or so on. So basically, go with what feels good to you. It's not unusual for people to buy a lot of rings, one for sizing, two for feel. It's like me in finger tabs for Olympic archery. You will need to find what works for you. The material, again, depends on what you need it for. There's lighter resin rings, heavier brass ones, depends on your draw weight, depends on how much you want to feel the string. Of course, there's bare thumb and leather options for more sensitivity, or there's resin and brass ones, or horn thumb rings if you want to have more solid contact. Anyway, I do hope that helps. This is NUSensei. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.